says it is. And I will call the meeting to order and I will declare a quorum. We have a open seat and also trustee Radtke is on vacation, so we will have a quorum either way. I would ask you all, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Anybody out in the audience have any comment to make on any of our agenda items? Generally, at this one board meeting, nobody comments because it's pretty well structured and you know everything that's going to happen anyway. So I'll go into President's report. And first of all, I would like to welcome Tiara again for another term. She will be going into this year, fourth term, correct? You came in 2017. This will be my fourth term. And if our president-elect is as happy to be coming in as I am going to be going out, she's a pretty happy lady right now. And Betsy, I'd like to congratulate you on your victory. And
thank you.
I have a new phone number now, so you can call me. What we're going to do, without objection, I would like to take the oath of office for the president-elect, so then she can go right into filling her vacant trustee seat. And then the three of us can be sworn in together as trustees. So without objection, I would ask President-elect to come forward and take the oath of office, please.
Okay, I, and then state your name.
I, Betsy Mancl,
Having been elected to the office of village president,
having been elected to the office of village president,
but have not yet entered on the duties thereof,
have not entered yet of the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will protect the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability.
of said office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yes. Okay, I just have a few trinkets here for you, ma'am. First one is the honorary gavel that has a new meaning now. This will be what you used to keep former President Zurfluh in mind. I don't think he knows it all. And here's your official name, please. Congratulations, Betsy.
So, because we're gonna move that number 7 up to nomination for the vacant trustee seats, my nomination would be for Jennifer Moore.
I'd make a motion to approve the nomination.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Mr. McGregor, any discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That one passes. Congratulations, Jen, you can join the subject.
You're official now.
Have their. Focus on this. No. You. Okay.
I, and state your name,
I, Joseph Zurfluh,
having been elected or appointed to the office of village trustee
having been elected
appointed to
the office of trustee,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
Have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
And faithfully discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability.
of said office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Congratulations. You feel smarter?
So now we will go into number 9, election of the vice president of the village board.
That'd be me. That would be you. Okay, so I'll take nominations for someone.
I'd like to nominate trustee Lon Radtke.
Oh, like unacceptable.
That's right, he's not here, so we cannot do that, right?
If he's not here to accept.
Why did you have to show up?
I'm precisely.
Okay. I will nominate trustee. I forgot what I was gonna
There's
say.
4 other ones.
Yeah. I'll nominate trustee Caleb McGregor.
Second. Oh, we don't. Yeah, you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Any other nomination? No? Okay, so I had some papers that we could all vote, but I guess you can't vote, I mean, it's just. Just do a voice vote. Voice vote, okay.
Yes.
Trustee Grunden, trustee McGregor, well, let's see both. Trustee Radtke's not here, trustee Saylor.
Yes.
And trustee Zurfluh.
Yes.
And Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Trustee Moore, okay.
Okay. So congratulations, Mr. McGregor. Vice
The most
president.
exciting part of my whole evening.
Fantastic.
Fix your thing later.
All right,
You don't get a special seat.
Not
so
even one with extra padding.
number 10, brief introduction, discussion of legal issues, procedures for elected officials by the village attorney.
Okay. We'll be getting to that right now before finishing the rest.
Without objection, we can move that to the end. We can do the committee assignments. Is that what you
Yeah, that's what I was
would
wondering,
prefer?
wondering if you wanted me to wait till the end for that.
Sure, okay. So then we'll go down to number 11, motion to approve standing committee nominations as presented in the handout.
So
Second.
Motion by Zurfluh, second by Grunden. Sorry, any discussion?
The TBDs will all be Miss Moore.
Yes.
Sorry.
So then, the TBD for public safety, Parks and Rec, and then planning legislative will be Jen. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that one passes. Sorry. Chairperson appointments. So I will just go right down the list for that, for Public Works. I have trustee Radtke being the chair. For Public Safety, I have trustee and vice president McGregor. Parks, Rec, and Cemetery, I have trustee Zurfluh. Planning, Legislative, Property, and Information Technology, trustee Grunden. Finance and Human Resources as trustee Radtke.
I accept.
Okay, Tiara, do you?
Yes.
accept? Okay.
Yes.
And talking with Lon on the phone, previously he stated he was okay with all of that. Appointments to other boards, commissions, and committees for the Police and Fire Commission, would be, Scott Stewart again. Planning Commission would be trustee Grunden, Airport Commission, trustee Zurfluh, the admin for the review board would be trustee Radtke. Board of Review, we're gonna, I had a little information before the meeting that, Karen Steele, has had special training for this. For the Board of Review, so we were gonna keep her on the Board of Review. Then, don't any objection to that. Okay, so now if we want to go back to our attorney for the legal issue.
Question, President.
Yep.
So is it the Board of Review, McGregor, comma? Or is she, I don't know how to interpret that.
So per village ordinance, it said that we have to do it for a trustee, but then state statute says that it can be either or. So we'd have to fix the ordinance. It's just because she's had special training
Yeah.
on that, so I think we're gonna.
Is she replacing then McGregor? Okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Okay. Now, back to number 10, our village attorney.
Thank you, Madam President, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess what I usually do at this meeting is give kind of a brief overview of, I guess in particular, there are kind of two big issues that I want to make sure all the trustees, especially the newer ones, have a good understanding of, one being open meetings and the other being open records. So the open meetings is, and all this, by the way, is covered in chapter 19 of the Wisconsin statutes. I know, obviously, I read more statutes than anyone else. It's part of the job. But if you're ever curious about the specific wording about anything, if you ever have any particular questions about it, chapter 19 is where the open meetings, open records, ethics, financial disclosure, all of kind of the expectations of public officials can be found. I mean, there are references to other chapters, there are a few other things, but if you have questions you want to look up on your own, that's the place to look. When you are on a board or on a committee, and in particular, these are committees in the village of Port Edwards where there are 3 people on each committee, which means it's possible to accidentally violate the open meetings law pretty easily, because open meetings law requires that any decision that's going to be made, it has to be noticed in advance. It has to happen in an open meeting unless there's a specific statutory exception to this, right? And that's also found in chapter 19.85 specifically. But unless there's a specific reason not to have it in an open meeting, all the decisions that this body and its sub bodies make have to be made in open session, which means you can't decide things outside of that setting. Trustees can't get together, they can't get together and talk about these things and come into a meeting with a decision that they've made in advance. And again, if this is repetitive for some of you, I'm sure it is, but for others, it sounds pretty obvious, but I think one of the things that's really important to keep in mind is there's something called a negative quorum. If you're making a decision not to do something, then that's the same as making a decision to do something in terms of the legal implications of it. Which means if you have a 3-person committee and 2 people have a phone call in which they decide, yeah, I'm not gonna vote for this, or I'm really not in favor of this, or whatever it might be after they talk, you've kind of formed a negative quorum just by doing that in that circumstance. You can also have something called a walking quorum, which is something that in a smaller community is particularly a risk. And that would be where if members of the legislative body get together in public, and if they're discussing matters that should be discussed at a meeting, and there's enough of them to form a quorum or a negative quorum, which means enough to shoot down something, then you're violating the open meetings law. So the biggest thing that I encourage people to do is don't even if it seems like I mean, if you're talking about something substantive, if it seems like it might accidentally be construed as village business, don't do it outside of this room or wherever, if the committees meet elsewhere, you know what I mean? Don't do it outside of committee or outside of the board meeting. This goes for email as well. Sometimes the tendency is to use email to figure out logistical things, scheduling, and then the next thing you know, people start talking about substantive matters, and then all of a sudden you have a negative quorum through email, or you have a walking quorum that you've created by accident. If you got 5 people on an email chain out of the 7 on this board, you violated the open meetings law. Because the public can't see what happens in that email chain, right? And if I'm included on the email chain, it's potentially, it's subject to attorney-client privilege, so if you have a question about something that's going on legally, like whether the body can do something, whether there's an issue with some of these legal matters, email me, but you can't just copy me on an email just to get the attorney-client privilege to cover it, so it's not gonna be disclosed. So really, again, use email and use phone calls and whatever the case may be for scheduling or logistical things, but don't discuss any substantive matters in that format without, I mean, at the very least, consulting me if you think that there's some sort of emergency that requires it. But most of the time, this is the forum for making decisions and for deciding not to make decisions, if that makes sense. Everybody's following that. As far as open records, people, you can be in here, you can take notes, and there are some things that are not subject to open records, but otherwise, the presumption is that if it's not used in closed session, documents that are produced by the village are gonna be open records. None of the people in this room are literally the custodian of the records, or the clerk is the one who is supposed to produce the records. But you may receive what are essentially public records requests from the public. Like now, as a member of this body, people may approach you in public and say, hey, wasn't there an agenda for this, or wasn't there some documentation of this thing that was discussed? Why didn't, I never got to see that, or, I'd like to see it. Forward that to the administrator, forward that, and he'll talk to me about it as necessary, forward to Diane as necessary. And so you should really just presume that if somebody is asking you about a record, about documentation for something, that treat it like an open records request. Even if somebody isn't really like explicitly asking that, or clarify, like, hey, do you want me to put this through as an open records request, or do you want to talk to the administrator about it? Because that's fine, and it's perfectly legal. And whether or not something is restricted, not covered by open records is a decision that it should be between the administrator, the clerk, and myself, as far as answering that question. That's not a decision you guys have to make, okay? And then I know that there are gonna be questions about things as they come along. Sometimes there are questions about what can we do in meetings, or is such and such a thing a conflict of interest, various things like that. There are rules on all of these things, general rules anyway, but there are a lot of maybe gray areas. If you have a question about something, anybody on this body can reach out to me and ask, and I will try to provide either a general answer or a very specific one if I have it. If I don't have an answer, or if there's somewhere else you need to look for it, I'll let you know. And I think the goal is to try to be as transparent as possible, but obviously there are going to be sensitive questions that probably are best put through me, so that the attorney-client privilege still applies. But generally speaking, the presumption is that everything that the village does through its governance is supposed to be transparent and open to the public. And so I guess generally speaking, if there are any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them in terms of specifics. But that's kind of the big overview on how kind of the big picture approach that anybody on this board should take if there's ever a question as to how you handle a particular circumstance arising from, somebody asking you questions from the public, or questions of how to conduct business or when to conduct it at the board or committee level. So, did you have anything specific you wanted me to talk about at this particular point, Madam President? I know that we have some meetings coming up at which some specific issues are perhaps going to be discussed. But
Yeah, I think just the overall, the walking quorum, all that, home rule.
Oh,
That's
yes.
a big one.
how could I forget? That's one of Mr. Zurfluh's favorite topics. So municipalities, of course, municipalities have a pretty broad, what are called home rule authority. So within the general structure, the village can make its own rules on a lot of things. And even the manner in which this list is gone through is different in a lot of different places. I was looking at this time of year, I always look at a few different agendas. I think as we speak, the Eau Claire City Council is deciding what the city seating chart is for its council. So everybody has different priorities and different things that are important. So if there's I guess if there's a question about how the village has done things in the past, is this legal? Is it specifically, it's not specifically in the statute. Is it legal for us to do it this way? The answer is probably yes, because it falls within home rule and there's a pretty broad, it's a pretty broad category. However, if it's something that's not working or causing problems for whatever reason, it's never a bad idea to kind of revisit it and see. But generally speaking, every single thing that you do in this room there's not sort of a step-by-step guide to everything. Home rule principles are what kind of gives us the local flavor and allows the village to be nimble and act in a way that is most conducive to serving its local citizenry. So, does that help?
Mhm. Does anybody have any questions for Nick?
Couple foot stomps.
Uh-oh.
The whole quorum thing and the whole get together, please don't think for the next 2 years, you all can't be together at the same place at the same time. We have a lot of city, village events, music fest, and that type of stuff that your camaraderie, your support, your presence is very well appreciated. Just can't talk business, that's all. But it'd be great to come up there. And that's even outside this door and socialize and whatnot. You just gotta have some hard rules where you just can't talk business, can't talk about votes and so on. Nick hit it. Anything dealing with open records or complaints, please forward them to us. We have a tracker, we follow it, we respond, we include you, and that builds a database for us of if we have a lot of problems in our village. Or responses to open records requests. Diana is the keeper of the record. There are some products that obviously we will give out if anyone asks. And please correct me if I'm wrong, we are not by state law mandated to create a product that's requested by a citizen. It has to be a product that has been issued.
That's true, and that's actually a somewhat common misconception that
Yes.
people they'll ask for in a format that doesn't exist, or they'll ask they'll ask the village to do the work of compiling data that they want, and that's not the responsibility, but it is very helpful, and again, Diane's got a tremendous amount of experience by dealing with open records requests of various types. And as the administrator also well knows by now. So we have I think there's a good system and the village is in good hands as far as that goes.
Please use your village emails, so we keep it all on our server for any type of requests.
Oh, may I?
Sure,
if you
yeah.
don't mind, if you use your personal email is potentially subject to open records requests. Hopefully I have to say no more than that.
Yeah, and I'll get yours as soon as tomorrow,
Perfect.
but everyone else has one, so. We don't do a lot of closed meetings. I think we did done twice in the past year for real estate transactions. And that's by state law, we're allowed to do that. And even when we do a closed meeting, I still capture minutes. they're still filed. And we synopsize, and we do a synopsis of the discussion, but a closed meeting is meant to be just a place where we can have an open, frank discussion. It's on a sensitive topic that, our lawyer is usually present, and we by no means do a lot of them, so, I'm not worried about closed meetings moving forward. And then the, board actions, specifically like on agenda, we added about a year and a half ago, a page of village-specific rules that we operate in this venue. When it comes to how we format this, when it comes to how we talk, how we, you don't have to stand and ask for permission to talk. We went very specific to make sure we have a good professional discussion going on here. So that's in our ordinance language. It's been reviewed. We'll review it again by the PIC committee if they want to, but it gives us the flexibility based on home rule that we found a lot of best practices that we enjoy using, and it makes us a very productive thing. So that's in chapter 1 or 2, I think, of our ordinances. It's at the very end. It's just business rules practices. And that's all I got.
Okay. Anything else? No?
None at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, on to set the committee calendars, obviously with, trustee Radtke out, those committees. My suggestion for that would be, if you're on a committee that, Mr. Radtke is chairing, just send him individually your available days, what works the best for you, and then he knows that he's gotta get in contact with you guys to make that work for all of you. So, with that, trustee McGregor for public safety how would you like to proceed with those dates? And obviously with trustee Grunden and trustee Moore, you get to chime in.
4 PM, I forget what the schedule was with Sue.
4? Oh,
I think it was always
5 for Jason to,
That is true, yeah, I need to,
That would work best for me, but whatever you guys want, I'll work around you.
I mean, the schedule's pretty flexible, so.
And isn't it Wednesdays are typically harder for you? And that would also be very true.
I can work around it, so.
Okay.
4 PM gets tough for me. Yeah, if it could be after that,
I think they were talking 5.
5,
5
that would be fine.
on Wednesdays.
First
First
Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday.
Last, I have a pen.
First Wednesday of the month, 5 o'clock.
Okay, and then obviously with all of these, if you have a hard time getting to a meeting or need to rearrange or any kind of committee work, go through your chairman. Obviously, Public Works and FHR are gonna have to be skipped, trustee Zurfluh for Parks and Rec.
We're gonna keep it on the 4th Wednesday of the month. And, we're shooting at a week from tomorrow, which will be April 26th. One member prefers a little earlier, and just hearing from Jen, I would think a good consensus would be 4:30, if that's gonna work at all. For you.
It kind of depends on work. Being a school counselor, if things come up at the end of the day, that's the only issue, you know this too. Sometimes I get stuck. So 5 is better, but I can, most of the time I can probably make 4:30 work.
So, we have another member that has to get to a meeting later after that too, so. 5 o'clock?
Thank you.
I stand corrected. So we will go at 5 o'clock. Please do not be late. No,
So the 26th at 5 o'clock is your first one.
sir, yes.
Okay, and then trustee Grunden with Pitt.
5 o'clock for Pitt.
Okay.
What day? Class?
It's usually the same week as our public safety, so if there's some, if public safety is Wednesday,
So Tuesday or Thursday?
yeah, I would do Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Lon said he wants to keep FHR on Thursdays at 4:30. So if that stands, then you need to take Tuesday out. Okay. So Tuesday, May 2nd. 5 P.M. Alright. Public Safety, 3 May, 5 P.M. 2 May is Pitt. Parks and Rec is the 26th. And I will confirm Public Works and FHR.
So FHR, when I speak, Madam President, is usually that Thursday before the board meeting is good for Diane and her reports.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put down for May tentative, but I just want to hear that, make sure Radtke's good with that, so. Yeah.
Okay.
And the only other calendar you have is 22nd, this Saturday is our strategic meeting here. Starts at 9, we'll go till 3, and lunch will be included next door. So we'll all be right in this room right here. And then 9 May is your next board meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. As far as people, Eric or Jen, if you can't make it, just give me a jingle, and I'm not gonna call any other trustees. I'm gonna, since you're a member of all committees, I'll just ask you if you plan on being at a PRC meeting.
Okay.
And then I won't have to look further. So that's,
Okay.
you plan on coming most that you can.
Yeah, I will let you guys know if I can't, just so that you're aware, but
Thank you.
that's the plan. Yep. Okay, anything else? About,
Committees, you'll get a draft agenda a week out with a Zoom link for your review and comment. So either the chair or a committee member can send me, add something, delete something, whatever, and we can have that discussion. And then it'll be proofed with a posting by Kim outside on the internet and so on. That's no later than 48 hours out. We have 24 is the rule, but we get them at least 2 days out. And then that's the same for board meetings and so on.
okay, so just be in communication with your chairman or with myself if you can't make it to a meeting, just so that if we do need to figure out a quorum situation, we can plan accordingly. Okay, if there's nothing else, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:32. We have a break.